Thank you for checking out the website, Fantasy Junkies. We know you are an authentic fantasy junkie if you are checking this out right now. Why? Because this segment is released only on the web. Yes, it is a 4-man panel here on Testosterone Fantasy Sports on the web. Yestie, Eric, Jeff, we're all kicking it here. It's exciting to be here, guys.
Would we call this the 4-manel?
I don't know. There's definitely a lot of testosterone flowing in the room here. We're here to talk about fantasy football. We're here to talk about the NFL in general. But before we go too much further, we have to talk about the final game of the NFL season. It was a fantastic Super Bowl. I know Eric was down there. Let's get Eric's thoughts, and we'll kind of just go from there. Eric, what was it like being down there to watch the Patriots falter in their only loss of the year?
It was amazing, Jesse. As I look back on that game now, almost a month later, I still can't believe what I saw. The Giants, huge underdogs, knocking off an 18-0 Patriots team. Eli Manning scrambling out of a scrum. David Tyree with maybe the greatest Super Bowl catch ever.
Right.
And I was lucky enough, after the game, I was doing some interviews. I'm on the field. There's confetti raining down on me. They're playing New York, New York over the speaker. And I'm saying, what am I doing here? It was surreal. And to think they won at Tampa, at Dallas, at Green Bay, and then in Phoenix against the Patriots. A great role for the Giants.
Yeah, in that Super Bowl, I was really impressed with the way the defensive line performed from the Giants. It just seemed like the way that they would cycle their guys through, it kept them fresh for the full 4 quarters of the game. And when their main players were getting winded, like Michael Strahan and Osi Umenyiora and Jason Tuck, their secondary players would step in and make plays. They even had a rookie get a major sack there at the end of the game. So the game plan that they have, and Spagnuolo, who called an excellent defensive game, I was just so impressed by the way they played on defense.
It was crazy.
So impressed, and I was so happy because I hate the Patriots. I hate the whole Spygate thing. I hate it all. They got outcoached. They got outplayed. They looked like a team that was afraid. They weren't playing to win. They were playing not to lose, it looked like to me. You know, I mean, I'm no expert when it comes to the inner workings of an NFL franchise as far as that goes, but, you know, the Giants just had the fire all throughout the playoffs and went out there and really laid it on them. So it was one of the best Super Bowls I've ever seen.
Yeah, definitely a great Super Bowl. When the game started, I got to be honest with you guys, I was going into it with the number 84 jersey on. I was definitely rooting for Randy Moss, wanted to see him get that ring, but probably 4 or 5 plays into the game, I found myself kind of leaning the other way, wanting to see if Eli Manning could put the capper on the end of this storybook ending for his team. And what a great Super Bowl it was. I thought it might be a little bit more high scoring. I know there were quite a few guys out there, Eric, that had their cash on the over, and they were definitely disappointed. But all in all, just a fantastic Super Bowl.
Yeah, and cash I'll never get back. and a footnote, too, and you guys covered it well during the year doing all your fantasy shows, but you go back to week 3, Giants at Washington. If it weren't for that goal line stand by the Giants to keep the Redskins from winning, and New York would have been 0-3 at the time, I'm not sure Tom Coughlin even gets back on the plane to go back to New Jersey. He might have been out of a job. And then you go back to the middle of the season, Vikings 41, Giants 17. Unbelievable loss for New York. Eli looked horrible, and that team won the Super Bowl. I guess there's hope for everybody.
Yeah, it makes us feel good as Viking fans to see, you know, our team put up a 24-point win against the eventual Super Bowl winner. We were really the catalyst by which they turned their season around and then went on their run. So, you know, there is a little bit of bright spot for us Purple fans as well.
Yeah, and the NFL, one thing that I love about it is as soon as that game is over, you get about 2 or 3 weeks off mentally, and then it all starts to fire back up. So that's what we're here today online talking about. Guys, the NFL's off season is now in full swing, and Yestie, it's starting off here. Teams designating different franchise players, but let's stay with these 2 squads that were in the Super Bowl. New England has some major decisions to make. We're just finding out today they have decided not to put their franchise tag on Randy Moss. What do you think about that decision?
That's a gamble. I mean, if they franchise him, yeah, he's not happy, but then they've still got some time to try to work out a long-term deal. And if somebody does come in with a poison pill contract or a huge contract that they can't match, then they get a 1st and a 3rd round draft pick in return, you know, which they can take more people and lose the draft pick if they want or whatever they want to do. But you know, I mean, if Randy is so valuable to them, that's a big gamble. I don't see why they did it.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. Coming off of 23 touchdown season, Jeff, I would think that with the year that Tom Brady had, that the Patriots would understand the importance of bringing Randy back.
Well, and I think there's a chance that this franchise tag might still happen. I mean, technically, as we shoot this, the team, as far as my understanding goes, they have until midnight to make their franchise
No, it was 4
selection.
p.m. It's done.
Okay.
It's done. They didn't do it.
Okay, well, that's good to know that, and that means they are going to gamble. Everything that I've heard from Randy is that he really wants to continue staying there and playing there. He really likes Tom Brady, and the fact that when they brought Randy in, they had the 2 lockers next to each other so that Tom Brady and Randy Moss could develop a chemistry. They obviously did that during the season. Randy, in my opinion, would be smart to do that because that's his best chance to get a ring. And at this point in his career, he's got so much money that he doesn't need any more money. So he wants a ring to really put a statement on his bid for the Hall of Fame.
Another player for the Patriots that probably not going to be coming back, Eric, is Asante Samuel. This guy, a premier cornerback. He's been kind of groomed in the Bill Belichick system there. I mean, the Patriots have always been able to retool and reload, but when you were at that game, did you get the feeling that this may have been, I don't know, maybe the beginning of some problems for this squad, or are we overanalyzing things here?
Possibly, but you do have to step back. You don't want to make decisions in the heat of a very disappointing loss, no question. You have to let some time pass. Junior Seau, Teddy Bruschi, they're a little old in that linebacking core. They may bring in Zach Thomas from Miami. Asante Samuel, I think, is their Randy Moss on defense. They don't want to lose this guy. They need to upgrade on defense, in my opinion. They need to get a little bit better. I don't think athletically on defense they were as good as the Giants. And back to Moss for a second, I think Tom Brady is more in love with Randy Moss than all those supermodels he hangs out with. There's no way Tom Brady wants to see this guy go because you're talking about the 23 touchdowns you alluded to, Jesse, and then think about the domino effect.
Right.
It will affect Wes Welker, who gobbled up a ton of balls because Randy demanded double coverage, and then you look at Dante Stallworth, Lawrence Maroney. So I got to bring back Randy Moss if I'm Belichick or Pioli or Robert Kraft.
So we know now Randy is a free agent. There's some other big-name guys out there we want to touch on. Yestie moving to the Cleveland Browns. We've just got word now that they've sealed up one of their free agents, Jamal Lewis, locking him up with a deal. They're working on a deal with Derek Anderson. Do you like these moves for Cleveland? Are they wise to try to keep this core intact? Or?
I didn't see the details of the Jamal Lewis thing because it just came out as we were sitting in here and doing our mic checks and things, but hopefully they didn't go beyond.
I think it was a 13-year deal worth
probably so. The way that the Browns go,
$171 million.
So hopefully Jamal's getting up there. He had a great year last year as the Browns had a great run, but they've got a brutal schedule this year, and hopefully Jamal can still get it out for another year or two. But Derek Anderson, I think, is the key. What they're going to do with him? Are they going to? Now it's down to about a 3-year deal they're working on with him. They need to figure out what they're going to do with that quarterback situation and develop the rest of the team.
Yeah, he had a great season for sure.
Yeah, and everything that I've been hearing is that they're working on a multi-year deal with Anderson and that they're really close to getting that worked out.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to probably be a deal in the 3 to 4 year range from what I understand. Him and his agent are holding out for a little bit more money, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, the guy accounted for 31 touchdowns, but he kind of struggled down the stretch. So Vikings fans, a lot of speculation before about potentially bringing in Derek Anderson. I don't see it happening. I think that Cleveland is probably going to stay put. So as far as Vikings fans goes, who should we bring in, Eric? What should we try to do this offseason to make the squad better? 8-8, we got to improve.
Yeah, to me the needs are almost identical to what they were a year ago at this time, and I don't think the current regime, Brad Childress and company, really addressed them the way they should have. We need another wideout. We need some sort of a go-to guy that will ease the load on the young quarterback, Tavares Jackson, somebody that will make Bobby Wade better. I think Bobby Wade is more suited to be our Wes Welker. Put him in that kind of a role.
Right.
We have Adrian Peterson. We have Chester Taylor. It's the best 1-2 punch any team has at running back. So if you add a dynamic receiver, we're going to get a lot better. I think a veteran backup to put behind Tavares would be a good thing. And now defensive end. Yeah, Trent Green, I think, may have had his last snap in the league. Defensive end is an issue. Erasmus James, injury riddled, and unfortunately Kelechi Udeze, and our condolences go out to him as he battles leukemia. That's a serious thing, and prayers and thoughts with him. But they're going to have to fill some defensive end spots because look how the Giants won the Super Bowl. On the edge with Umanuri and Strahan flying in, putting the heat on Brady, studs in the middle like Robbins and Tuck. That might be the blueprint that teams are going to use to try to win the Super Bowl this season.
Now, there's a couple names of guys out there. As far as a quarterback goes, in my opinion, Quinn Gray would fit just because he's got a real similar skill set to Tavares Jackson. For running the West Coast offense, you want a quarterback who can run the ball. Quinn Gray from Jacksonville, he's a backup to David Garrard. He's going to be a good fit for us. On the receiving side of things, we know that there's a Bears receiver, Bernard Berrien, who's available. Also, the Cowboys have Patrick Creighton, who, in my opinion, would fit very well because he's a tall body. At 6'4", he's real muscular, and he'd be a good mentor to Sidney Rice. Okay, then I know, Jesse, you like Justin Smith from Cincinnati. I'd be interested to get your take on him.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Smith, pass rushing D end, as we're starting to talk about the keys to winning a championship, we're seeing you got to generate a pass rush. The Giants made that evident, and we definitely, as Eric was saying, we need a pass rushing defensive end. I'd like to see us throw some money at Justin Smith, but from what I'm hearing, he's going to be a very hot commodity. A lot of teams are going to be throwing money at him, so it's going to be interesting to me to see what happens there because, some of the other defensive ends that could have been available, guys are getting those franchise tags slapped on.
I think that the team would probably be better set to go out and spend the money on an already developed receiver and then draft, and it's a really heavy defensive end draft, defensive line draft. Go young with some of those guys, as we saw a lot of the young guys like Tuck and Umenyiora and stuff for the Giants come through and develop those guys, because if you try to draft a receiver, we talk about it on fantasy shows all the time. Usually takes 3 years to hit your full stride as a receiver. By then, the offensive line's getting older. I think with the way that the window is kind of with the Vikings right now, I would go out and get an established receiver and go through the draft to get the defensive end.
And it might sound almost crazy to bring it up, but if indeed Randy Moss is on the market and you have cap money to spend, make the phone call. Because I think the Vikings now have a recruiting tool in Adrian Peterson. I think guys are going to want to be a part of an offense with Adrian. Now,
for sure.
And I don't think Randy disliked his time here. I had a chance to ask him a question at the Super Bowl about Minnesota. I said, what would you say to Viking fans? And he said, I would say, you know what? I'm sorry we didn't get the ring when I was there. That's unfinished business. And, he still doesn't have the ring. So, hey, why not at least approach him?
That would be great.
Fans would love it, right? They'd love it.
I'd love it.
I've got a rumor for you guys, and I hesitated to share this with anybody before we started rolling because, in my opinion, this could be hot. My inside source in Miami is telling me that Jason Taylor is on the trading block, and there's 2 front runners for his services, and they're Dallas and the Vikings.
Well, that would solve all of our problems.
Taylor's 35 years old.
Until he tears his ACL
so
on Dancing with the Stars.
I'd be curious to know what you
or
guys
something.
think about that. But he is going to be on Dancing with the Stars.
Go ahead, Yestie. What do you think about Jason Taylor?
He's old, man. I mean, he's still a great player, but I think if you're, the way that this team would go, in my opinion, and kind of, I feel like I'm kind of unbiased because I'm not a Vikings fan. Just the way that the team is set up, you've got a couple of years where I would bring in a veteran quarterback that can take over for Tavares right away if he struggles again this year. And I would get an established receiver when AP can just run wild while you still have both those guys, AP and Chester, and I would go young on the defensive line.
Let me just counter that for one bit, Yestie, and I respect what you say, but Michael Strahan was retired when the season started last year for the Giants. Sure. They coaxed him out. He got the ring. He's about the same age as Taylor. I think if a guy has motivation and he can stay healthy, it's a pretty good Viking defense. He might be a great fit, in my opinion.
Could you imagine Jason Taylor next to Pat?
I'm not saying I wouldn't want him to be here. I'm just saying, I think you might have better avenues. But, yeah, he is a great player. I'm not knocking his skills.
Well, I definitely agree with you, Yestie, on your take of trying to add a veteran wide receiver. So let's talk a little bit for fantasy owners out there as well about some of the other names that are floating out there. Jeff, let me get your take. Tell me what you think about a name like DJ Hackett, a guy who had a little bit of a down season last year, some nagging injury problems for Seattle, and then contrast that with Bryant Johnson, a former first-round pick who's now a free agent, coming out of the Arizona Cardinals system, never really had a chance there. Those 2 guys are both going to likely switch teams. Would you like to see either of them in purple? And what do you think about their individual fantasy prospects as they change squads?
Okay, I would like to see DJ Hackett here, and I would not like to see Brian Johnson here. Now, here's why I like DJ Hackett. He's young, and he's developed as a later-round pick type of guy. He developed in the system of Seattle, which is a high-producing system in the passing game.
Right.
And I think that he would fit really well with the mentality that we've got going on here. Here's why I don't like Bryant Johnson. Bryant Johnson was picked in the first round before the Cardinals got either Larry Fitzgerald or Anquan Boldin.
Right.
So if he wasn't good enough to be in the starting lineup then, I don't think he's going to be good enough to be in a starting lineup now. And so for those reasons, I like DJ Hackett way more than Bryant Johnson. I don't think Bryant Johnson is ever going to be any more than a number 3 or at best a number 2 wide receiver.
So he'd fit in great here because that's all we've got is a group of number 3s and number 2 wide receivers. Let's talk quickly about some of the free agent running backs. Fantasy football owners across the landscape have been waiting with bated breath to find out if Michael Turner of the San Diego Chargers was going to become a free agent. There were some rumors that he might get the franchise tag slapped on. At this point, we haven't heard any of that news. It sounds like Michael
Rumors
Turner.
created by Yestie.
It sounds like Michael Turner. I had to toy with you a little bit. Jeff has Michael Turner in the tough league. Michael Turner is going to be a free agent, Jeff. You got to be psyched. Tell us where you think he could potentially land and what do you expect from him?
I expect big things from him. He's the kind of guy who's got a really versatile skill set. He's got good speed for being as big as he is. He can go around players as well as go through them. And I think that he's the kind of guy who can carry the load full time for an NFL team. So there's teams out there that I think would be smart to, there's 2 specifically who I think would be smart to go for Michael Turner. But these are 2 teams that both spent big dollars on free agent running backs last year, and they're the Houston Texans, who spent money on the 30-year-old legs of Amon Green and got burned for it.
Right.
And then the Jets, who spent big free agent dollars on Thomas Jones and got burned for that. So I think there's a chance that both those teams would look at him. The place I'd like to see him go most, Seattle.
What do you think about Seattle? They definitely got rushing problems, Yestie.
They've got rushing problems. I think they'll probably try to settle that at the end of the first round of the draft. I think he's going to go to Cincinnati. I don't know why. They've got Rudy Johnson, they got Kenny Watson, they have Kenny Irons, who they drafted last year. But he's a character guy. I could see him going to Cincinnati. I've got Rudy Johnson in the tough league, and I've been going at some other owners trying to unload him like crazy over the last couple of days.
I think he could end up in Chicago because he played at Northern Illinois. He's got some roots in the Chicagoland area. And I think the Chicago Bears regret letting Thomas Jones go to the New York Jets. They lost that toughness. And Cedric Benson, you'd have to say, has been a first-round bust. He's just not a big-time back that you need in Chicago, Illinois. So I think the Bears are a possibility.
And also, Cedric Benson is coming off the ACL injury, and we know that running backs never come back in their first year back at the same level that they got injured at, and Benson wasn't at a very good level.
And it was Benson's injury was late in the year, too. So, I mean, it's not like he's had a full year to recover. Some other free agency type situations swirling around in the Cowboys backfield. Marion Barber is a restricted free agent. Julius Jones an unrestricted free agent. Sounds pretty much for sure that Julius Jones won't be back. We're starting to hear some rumors that Marion Barber might be on the trading block. Maybe the Cowboys have interest in Darren McFadden. What do you make of these rumors, Yestie? Set us straight here.
Well, I wish I could, but I don't know for sure. All I know is that Jerry Jones is an Arkansas alum. Darren McFadden's from Arkansas. While they're saying right now they're going to hang with Marion Barber, they're working on a long-term deal supposedly. I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility, depending on how things go, to where they could trade either right before the draft or trade for McFadden if they could agree with the Dolphins, if the Dolphins could take him and then package some guys up. I don't know how it's going to go. It could go either way.
A couple other free agent names we want to hit on real quickly. Jeff, I know you want to talk a little bit about the all-pro guard from the Pittsburgh Steelers, leaving a little bit disgruntled, won't be back in the fold for the Steelers. What do you think about Alan Faneca as a player, and where might he end up helping someone's running game?
I think Alan Faneca is the second best guard in the NFL, just behind our own Steve Hutchinson.
Right.
And I think that there's 31 offensive lines in the NFL who would be markedly better with his services. So I think that he's going to garner one of the best contracts that we've seen ever for an offensive guard in the NFL. And I think there's several different places. Specifically, I do think Seattle would be really smart to go after him. And also with the fact that the Steelers franchise, Max Starks, they're preparing themselves to let Faneca walk. He was very vocal in his disapproval of the way that they handled his situation last season, giving him the franchise tag, and so he's definitely going. And I'm telling you that every single team in the league would be way better with him. And I would be super happy if we got him here.
Well, we've talked a little bit about that. I don't think Vikings fans should really hope for that. We've got such a stellar offensive line. We have other holes to fill. But one final news piece that I wanted to talk here before we take a break. We're going to do one more segment addressing the NFL draft. But it's sounding, guys, like Deshaun Foster finally might be ousted from the Carolina backfield. I wonder what you guys think about that situation, what that might mean, Eric, for D'Angelo Williams, a player who really got hot towards the end of last season. Is Foster leaving a good thing for the Panthers?
Well, I think that, the Carolina Panthers, they might be in a situation where if they don't have a big year in 08, then you might see a coaching change with John Fox. Remember, they were in Super Bowl 38, and since then they've gone downhill. It's been a slow erosion. I think the youngster Williams, you look at what Adrian Peterson did, Marshawn Lynch, some of the guys in their rookie year, there's probably pressure to get Williams in there. It might be a good thing for Foster to go out, shop his wares and his services somewhere else, and try to find the right fit. It's all about the right fit, coaching, offense, all that stuff factors in, but I think it might be time for him to go.
And we hope this is a right fit for you joining us on the website. We thank you so much. We do the show during the season. As you know, definitely a labor of love. We're taking that labor of love one step further during the off season here, making it a priority to keep the website updated. Feel free to peruse our wares. Check out everything right here on the website. And as soon as this segment ends, which is about 3 seconds from now, click on the segment right below us on the website. We're going to be talking about NFL Draft coming up next.